Today we're going to be talking about the best portrayal of Shadow the Hedgehog. And Shadow the Hedgehog is, of course, amongst a lot of people's favorite character because of his personality, the way he looks, and the way he is portrayed. So we're going to talk about all the instances, how Shadow is portrayed, and which one we believe is the best portrayal of Shadow the Hedgehog, because depending on what Sonic content you are playing or watching, Shadow the Hedgehog is portrayed differently. So Shadow the Hedgehog only has his modern counterpart, as he never had a classic counterpart, at least in the franchise of Sonic the Hedgehog. As you know, most of the other characters had a classic counterpart where their eyes were black as opposed to different colors. In their modern counterpart, for example, Sonic has black eyes in his classic counterpart, and his modern variation, he has green eyes. And Shadow the Hedgehog just flat out did not exist in the classic Sonic series. Same thing can be said about Rouge the Bat. Being that Shadow the Hedgehog only had his modern counterpart, he of course had different variations of his modern counterpart depending on which Sonic content you're playing or watching. And the first one we're going to talk about is when Shadow the Hedgehog was basically introduced to the entire franchise, and that was in the Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic X era. He really came in the game Sonic Adventure 2, introduced for the very first time, and of course made an appearance on Sonic X. And of course I absolutely love the storyline of Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic X, and those are basically the reason why I'm a Sonic fan at all and why this channel was made. And we have Sonic Boom. Now, of course, Sonic Boom was a spin-off of Sonic the Hedgehog characters, so most of these characters weren't supposed to be, I guess, them true selves or canon selves, if that makes sense. However, I will say Sonic Boom teases and explains a lot of things that would be known as canon to the overall Sonic franchise. However, a lot say that this show is not canon and is completely a spin-off because the characters and the way they are portrayed, the way they look, and the way they act. And I will say Shadow the Hedgehog looks a little different here in Sonic Boom. However, not as different as Sonic looked different in Sonic Boom than he did in the rest of Sonic content overall. So Shadow the Hedgehog's personality tends to have this kind of like slight edge to him where he tries to take his anger out on the world because of traumatic events that he went through personally. As you all know, his story with Maria Robotnik, and because of this is the whole reason why Shadow acts the way he acts, and he tends to kind of like have this resentment or aggression towards others or even the overall world. And then Sonic Boom, he's just straight up a villain and straight up just evil or mean, and he just means nothing but bad. I think towards the end he wanted the entire, I guess, universe to collapse or basically disappear.
I'm not thrilled with the results, but I must admit I'm impressed with how you saved the universe. I'll be back, Sonic, but next time on my terms.
If we're talking about the actual personality, the way they act, definitely Sonic Boom Shadow is just straight up evil, just straight up mean, and straight up an asshole, because simply he is just there to hurt others. Now, I will say he does battle Sonic a lot. So there's a lot of instances in Sonic X and even other Sonic content that contain Shadow where he battled Sonic a lot of the times. But of course, there were for different reasons, because he was on Eggman's side at the time. Eggman's grandfathers who created him, so he was able to manipulate Shadow into being on his side. However, in Sonic Boom, he was just straight up bullying everybody, and he was using his OP abilities, Chaos Control, to basically, like I said, bully other characters. Now, Shadow was absent from Sonic Frontiers. Surprisingly, there were a few mentions in the game where Sonic mentioned Shadow, but it was nothing like where he was actually in the game. So the next thing we're going to talk about also is Sonic Prime. Now, Sonic Prime, have very mixed emotions about this show. Obviously, if you've been a supporter of the channel, you've already heard me and everything I had to say about Sonic Prime. However, in today's video, we're talking about Shadow and his portrayal. Now, Sonic Prime, as I said before, many times before, I was highly disappointed by Sonic Prime. To be honest, Sonic Prime, most of these characters kind of don't feel like them true selves and what they are typically depicted as, and Shadow is no different. So Shadow the Hedgehog, yes, he definitely has his, opposition towards Sonic the Hedgehog, because he does fight Sonic and things on what he says and what he believes in. He tends to even battle Sonic throughout Sonic Prime. However, Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic Prime definitely is an ally towards Sonic, and ultimately at the end is basically like a friend, almost like a brother to Sonic, because of course he fights with him, yet at the same time he's there to help at the end of the day. If we personally had to pick a best Shadow the Hedgehog, and mind you, a lot of people may agree or disagree with this. However, I think the best Shadow the Hedgehog, me personally, I would say the Sonic Boom Shadow the Hedgehog was the best portrayal of Shadow. And yes, I know that is a very big surprise. However, if we're speaking on the majority of people, I think a lot of people will agree that the Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, even Sonic X Shadow, was the best Shadow the Hedgehog portrayal of all time, because a lot of people understand where he comes from. Yes, he on surface level in the beginning, he might seem like a bad guy. However, deep down inside, he acts the way he acts because of the traumatic events that he went through. And a lot of people can empathize with Shadow in Sonic X and Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Now, the reason why I believe the Sonic Boom Shadow the Hedgehog was the best portrayal, because I'm a really big fan of characters with a very dark or deep edge to them. I'm not saying I am personally evil. I just like characters who have an edge to them and are actually kind of mean, so to say. And honestly, the Sonic Boom Shadow the Hedgehog fits the bill perfectly for me. And I find these type of characters to be absolutely interesting. Hence the reason why I love Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic Boom so much, because he just does things that you just absolutely do not expect. For example, that scene when he threw Styx and Amy off mid-air, he literally chaos controlled behind them without them even expecting. He grabbed them by the back, lifted them into air, and dropped them mid-air. Like, I would have never expected he was going to do that. So to be honest, I just absolutely love Shadow being a villain, and just the way it was executed to me was absolutely perfect. But of course, that alone is my opinion. We've already talked about most people's opinion, and that's definitely going to be Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, and Sonic X Shadow is the best depiction of Shadow the Hedgehog. But of course, let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. Which do you believe is the best portrayal of Shadow the Hedgehog? And if there was an ideal depiction of Shadow that you would like to see, definitely let me know down below in the comments below. I'd really love to know. And if you have not already, be sure you smash the like button down below and hit the subscribe button to never miss another video.